Welcome to Shalom World Podcast.
Welcome to Shalom World Podcast. Today, we have an exciting guest who's transforming the landscape of spiritual well-being. Joining us is a true trailblazer, Erich Kerekes, the co-founder of Hallow, the groundbreaking app that's empowering millions on their spiritual journeys. Get ready to be inspired as we explore the story behind Hallow and the driving force behind its success.
It is so awesome to have Erich Kerekes here, one of the co-founders of Hallow, the largest Christian meditation app in the world, prayer app in the world. I use it. I'm a part of it. I love to see all the things that has been happening through this wonderful app. So thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about how this came about and what the Lord has been doing through the Hallow app?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's a total pleasure to be here. Hallow first came about 5 years ago. Me and my co-founders were basically working like crazy, hectic jobs, management consulting, investment banking, 80, 90, 100-hour weeks, just trying to figure out how we can take a step back a little bit. It was around this time that Headspace, the mindfulness meditation app, was exploding. So both my co-founders tried that. I myself ended up going more for like nature walks and things. But despite our different approaches, we had the same takeaway, which was like, these things are helpful to slow down our heart rate and take a step back, but feels totally disconnected from our faith life. And it felt like it was trying to be a spiritual experience, but was missing the most important aspect, right, which is God. Yeah. And so we said, well, there's got to be some intersection between meditation and our Catholic faith. And even though we were born and raised Catholic, we had never had the world of contemplative prayer kind of exposed to us before. And so we talked to everybody we knew, priests, brothers and sisters, friends, family, and started hearing about prayer techniques like Lectio Divina and Christian meditation, Ignatian Examen. Found it was exactly what we were looking for. It allowed us to live in God's peace and also grow closer to Him. And we said, well, you know, if Headspace can bring mindfulness meditation to millions of people through an app, then why can't we try the same thing for Catholic prayer? There's got to be many others out there like us who were, you know, born and raised Catholic, or just exploring the faith for the first time and looking to dive deeper into this prayer. So we felt called to quit our jobs, and that's exactly what we did, and started the app 5 years ago, and the rest is history. So
that's so beautiful.
That's awesome. There was an era, at least, when I was growing up, there was this caution towards the word meditation. Like somehow as Catholics, it'd be bad to meditate, like to meditate on the Word of God or something, for example. And so, personally, I'm just so grateful that you have something that is so accessible to people that they can really quiet themselves. And that's really been a theme that we've been hearing over and over and over again over the course of this World Youth Day, with all of the special events that have been going on. There's the rock concerts, and there's the dance, and there's the music, and there's the cheering and the shouting, but also what people are saying are really transformative for them are those quiet moments. And so maybe you can share with us, like, what are some of the feedback that you hear from the people that use the app? Like, how have their lives been changed and transformed by continuing in this very quiet but also dedicated method of meditation?
Absolutely. That's definitely one of the biggest themes of Hallow from day one, is knowing that silence is such a big part of prayer, and that it should be a dialogue, right? It's not just us speaking to God, but also waiting and listening to hear for His voice back. And so if you go to any of our prayers within Hallow, you'll notice that there's a big emphasis on silence. And you listen to a 15, 20-minute prayer, maybe half of that time will be spent listening for God's voice back. And the feedback we received on that has been incredible and truly transformative. I mean, some of the user stories that we get day in and day out are the things that really continue to keep us going. But
now, is this the first time that Hallow comes to World Youth Day, or were you guys also present in Panama?
Yeah, so funny story. That Panama was about 1 month after Hallow launched last time.
It's just a baby.
So me, my brother, who's a doctor, doesn't even work for Hallow, just wanted to help with our new startup, and then Brian, one of the other members from the Hallow founding team, went down there. We had 200 drawstring bags, and we just handed those out, and like that was our first ever presence there. So that was it. This time we're doing a little bit bigger. And
can you tell us I was able to see in the City of Joy, I saw the banners of Hallow. I was so excited to see that. And I when you scan it, it was, I think, the meditations of examination of conscience to prepare yourself for the sacrament of confession. Can you tell us a little bit about what was your role right now, and how does it feel being one of the co-founders and kind of seeing here in World Youth Day how all of this and what the Lord is doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, to your point, one of the biggest ways that we're plugging in right now is offering this content to the pilgrims. We have the examination of conscience outside of confession. We also have our holy hour playlists posted right outside of adoration. But it's just been a true pleasure to be here and see, more than anything, just the palpable joy in the air around. I mean, you can hardly walk for more than 5 minutes without a group breaking out into song and glorifying the Lord in that way, or cheering in some way. And so that's been a truly amazing thing to see.
Yeah. And so we talk about this as like a mountaintop experience, right? This is like when Moses would go up on the mountain and encounter God in a powerful way, hear from the Lord, but then he'd have to go back down the mountain and be with his people. But the Lord was with him in that, and with his people, sustained them on that. And so for me, like, it seems like this might be a very useful tool for a lot of people. Having come to World Youth Day, having experienced it, or perhaps even parents or families at home who have somebody here who is coming back from this experience, how can this app help them sustain the seeds of faith that have been planted here at World Youth Day?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I mean, something that we've seen, and not only at World Youth Day, but pilgrimages and retreats kind of all over the world, any of these mountaintop experiences, like you said, sometimes it's too easy just to come home and just settle back into the routine that you had, and you get kind of hit over the head with normal life. And one of the things that we want to do to help people use this experience and see how God is asking them to transform their life through this experience is by taking the time afterwards to spend the time with God and see how he wants you to then change your life moving forward. And so for World Youth Day specifically, we've developed a Rise Up Novena, as we call it. It's led by Bishop Joe Espaillet from the Archdiocese of New York, the youngest bishop in the U.S., so we figured appropriate for World Youth Day. But I would certainly encourage any pilgrims here, but also any listeners back home to join us and join us in prayer for all of the pilgrims attending here, that we may use this experience and the mountaintop experience that we have, but also allow it to change our lives moving forward.
That's so beautiful. In regards to you personally, what's something that you feel the Lord has done for your life personally through this app?
Oh, it's too hard to put that to words as far as what this has done for my own spiritual journey. But I think probably the biggest thing is, when Thomas Merton was asked, what's the most important thing for growing in your prayer life, he just said to make time, right? And more than anything, how has helped me in my personal life just to set aside the time for prayer. And there's so many different ways that people can grow in relationship with Christ, and I encourage you to explore all of the different kinds of prayer techniques to figure out what works for you. But the one thing they all have in common, the one way to grow, they all require time. And so now that I have a routine set up, I know the times of days that I'm going to be praying. That's the one thing that it's just night and day difference from before we started Hallow to today.
And so for anyone who might not be familiar with the Hallow app, haven't had a chance to check it out, what kinds of content can they expect from it? Is it just some meditation, or do you have other things on there as well?
Yeah, great question. So we now have over 10,000 prayers on the app, which is crazy saying that. I mean, last World Youth Day, I think we had nine prayers on the app. So just to give you a sense of where it's going.
Grown a little bit since the last World Youth Day. That's amazing. Praise God.
Grown a little bit. But we've got everything from the daily kind of prayers like the Gospel, Divine Mercy Chaplet, Bible in the Year, Catechism in the Year, to sleep Bible stories. We have actual scripture in the app so you can read the entire Bible as well. And then also an entire section on music, including everything from contemporary music to traditional chant. But the idea is you just select how you want to pray, hit play, put your headphones in, and we'll guide you through the prayer.
And how many countries and how many languages?
Yeah, so Hallow is now being used by by people in over 150 different countries every day, which is a crazy thing for me to say. But
you say in an app.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not going to stop until we can reach as many of those people as possible with the languages as well. So we're currently in 6 languages, so English, Spanish, Portuguese, Polish, German, and then we have French and Italian coming up next. And we're also hiring for a Hindi lead as well. And then we'll continue to expand internationally after that.
Well, I love that because it just really, you are modeling what Pope Francis has just really addressed to the people here at World Youth Day, is that the church is meant to be a place of welcome for everyone. And you're making this accessible to the world, giving a resource for people to help them pray, to help them to meditate, help them be closer to the Lord. And you have some really cool people to help you do that, like Mark Wahlberg, for example, right?
Yep.
Like, that's amazing. And all of these people that are contributing to help continue the mission that you have. So what kind of plans do you have moving forward in the future for Hallow?
Yeah, so moving forward, we're certainly going to continue to add new content every month. We add new content in all of these languages, but the biggest thing is going to be expanding both into new languages, but then we also want to try and expand our content so that we can really meet users wherever they are in their spiritual journey, right? And so right now, we do kind of assume you have some background in Catholicism, right? You hit play on the Daily Rosary, and it starts with the Apostles' Creed. It doesn't give kind of the intro or anything. And so we'd love to see a world in which we can kind of add questions at the beginning to find out, like, oh, if you're exploring for the first time, maybe you see different content at the beginning that says, oh, here's what Catholicism is about. Here's what we believe, or here's an intro to the Rosary, right? So that's kind of the biggest things for the future.
That's awesome. I love that.
Right on. Now, can we talk about for a second here, like just the use of the app, for example, right? Is amazing use of technology. You have a background in computer engineering, is that right? Computer science?
Computer science.
And that's my background as well, except not as sophisticated. It was internet technologies, and that seemed like a lifetime ago for me, and I'm a complete dinosaur now, and I barely know how to use Instagram. But it's amazing how we can use technology in our era to be able to lead people to Christ, right? And when you use those gifts, like you're using your gifts, it's amazing how God can bless that. During the time of COVID, just right before COVID is when you launched the app. Is that correct? And like, how providential was that the Lord used that time? He created a way for a technology like that to be able to aid people in a time when they were feeling isolated and alone more than ever, right?
So yeah, absolutely. And it's really, in our eyes, trying to reach out in the way that we've been asked through the new evangelization to meet people where they are. Because when it comes down to it, most people these days are spending hours on their smartphones every day. And so our hope is that you can sanctify your smartphone through Hallow. A lot of people are quick to say, all technology is bad, or we need to limit our usage as much as possible. But really, it's not as much it's more about what we're plugging into when we use those phones, right? Because it does make it a lot easier to go straight to social media and scrolling and some things that may not be as spiritually fruitful. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a way to use your smartphone to grow in your faith instead, right? So that's really what our main goal is.
Now, I love the beginning of Hallow. There's a group of friends that were kind of like, there's a need, and we're going to fulfill it and take action, which I think is amazing and awesome. And we kind of see just how much the Lord can do when you simply say yes. There's probably a lot of people, we look at the church, 99% of the church is made up of the laity. And there's probably people who are like, man, I wish the church did this. And they kind of just sit back and are like, right, that's nice. What would you say for people that feel called to do something and are kind of like, how do we do that? Or are watching your story and it's like, man, you guys were in college, right?
We were just a couple of years out of college.
Yeah, so like that's very early on. Like, what would you say, or what kind of message would you have for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing I think for us is really just first step, of course, discerning what God is asking in your life, right? And when we were first exploring all of those prayers, one of the ones we were exploring were Ignatian discernment techniques. And so I implemented that into my life. I was like, okay, well, we're learning about all this stuff. May as well actually put it to practice. Yeah, and once I felt like, okay, I know that this is something God is calling me towards, know that He is only calling you towards the best path for you, right? God only wants what is best for us. And so once you feel like you have discerned that, then take the leap and just trust in God to bring you the rest of the way.
Thank you for joining us today. Tuned into Shalom World Podcast for this extraordinary event that celebrates faith, love, and unity.